Good afternoon, everyone, and good afternoon, chaps. Welcome to the Green Arrow podcast from Fantasy Football Hub as we look ahead to two game week deadlines in 4 days in game week 14 and 15. My name is Fergie. Adam, welcome back. What colour was your arrow in game week 13?
Yeah, it was a small green arrow. I think I'd probably class it more as a grey. But if we're being binary,
very small
it was,
rank change, isn't it, there for you?
well, yeah. But at least it was green,
Indeed.
so we'll take that. Yeah, I think I'm at that stage now where I seem to be quite stagnant. So I'm not necessarily making the ground that I would like to. Just hovering below that million mark. Players that return for me. So I got how many points did I get? I got 48 points. Players that returned for me were Gabriel with a clean sheet. Lascelles was quite nice actually. That was
But better
that's
than
probably
expected,
the
wasn't it?
Well, I started him, so I thought he's got that in his locker maybe once a season. So I'll take it. That'll be his goal. But yeah, I was pleased with that. And then Salah, Haaland, and Watkins, all ever reliable, getting a return. But apart from that, not much. So yeah, fairly so.
Really so. Welcome back, Rich. How are you? And what colour was your arrow in game week 13?
I'm well, unlike yourself, mate. But
Man
yeah,
flu,
no,
the
good.
worst kind of flu.
Got a nice green actually. 59 was a decent score.
Wow.
Last week, mainly down to Anthony Gordon hauling. That was really nice. Played him ahead of Palmer, which turned out to be the right call for that game. The rest of the team all did okay. Got the captaincy okay with Haaland. Get some returns there because it was obviously and not owning Son paid off for me again. Although I do feel I've led a bit of a charmed life with that one.
Understatement
I
of
went
the
out
year.
to walk. I went out to walk some dogs during the Villa versus Tottenham game, and so I didn't
Stepped
see
in
it in
shit,
full
did
because
you?
would have been a bit of a difficult watch that I think all in all. But yeah, that's 3 blanks in a row for Son, and I've not owned him for any of those, so it's kind of going my way in the players I don't own. Also, haven't had the Bowen headache and the injury and stuff, so my team sort of danced up the rankings a bit. And what is it now, 750k odd or something like that. So yeah, getting there slowly, surely. 4 greens in 5 or something. So I'll keep going. And yeah, we'll come on to formations later. But went for a different formation on wildcard, and it seems to be working. So we'll talk through that.
We will.
later.
That's a big talking point later.
Yeah.
I think I had my best game week of the season in terms of rank rise. So 65 points, which was really good. Gordon and Lascelles came out clutch for me. As I say, the Lascelles one was quite, you don't expect a goal, do you? Gabriel clean sheets. Saka, Mr. Consistent, 8 points just tucked in there in the middle. Haaland and Watkins. So yeah, really nice to have a good week for a change and a nice clout to 1.3 million. So I think I'm hopeful now the next 3 game weeks or so. I'd love to have that rank again. Already got Mbomo in place this week, which is going to be an incredibly popular move this week. Still got Son. I mean, how unlucky was I say unlucky. I know there's this argument he's got caught offside and Villa played it well, which they absolutely did, but it just shows the Son, his finishing is still there. He's getting in the right positions. Okay, a yard too far ahead than he should do, but he's there or thereabouts. I'm still convinced that people are taking him out. I think he's the 3rd or 4th highest transferred out player this week, but I'm going to hold him. We're going to have a bit of a chat later that if we do have to get rid of someone like Son or Saka or something like that, who's going to be as well. But yeah, a good week, and our mini league has closed right up now. 15 points between Rich in top, who's top, and myself in 3rd with Adam tucked in between. So interesting to see how that progresses. You can find your own mini league analyzer, which gives you your live points, live rank. It shows your opponents' transfers, how many players have played, captain, vice, everything you want. Fantasyfootballhub.co.uk, my team, mini leagues. And there's also game week awards. There's about 10 or 11 awards. Rich, this week you won the Pep most benched points, even though you didn't. You benched Maguire, didn't you? because you've got
I
such
did
such a
bench
strong
Maguire,
squad that you had to bench Maguire.
Exactly. I actually allowed myself to be talked into. I think it was Bakar talked me into playing Cash over Maguire, or not Cash over Maguire, someone else anyway. Yeah, just for the attacking upside, and Cash returned 0 points and got hauled off at half time. So yeah. But there you go. You can't win them all. So
the Hub AI team, for those who are tracking it on Fantasy Football Hub, scored a cool 60 points. And it's currently cruising at 300k, so that is doing very well too. Just before we move on, let's say hello to the chat. Packed lobby this evening. All very cold. It's a very cold day today. I don't know what it's like down your neck of the woods, chaps, but absolutely Baltic where I am.
Freezing. Really cold.
Matt Stevens is in. He's asking about Watkins or Darwin. Yeah, definitely a conversation. My recommended transfer this year, spoiler alert, is Watkins to Darwin, which is quite interesting. I'm 9074 is in, as is Sokan, Gianni Kalioski. Keith Hill says, even from a chilly Scotland, I bet it's even colder up there. Brian, Dan Megan, Andrew Savage scored 74 points. Well played. That's a hell of a week. Cedric Levy, Janko asks, so selling Sonoe. Big Lou is in. Andrew Savage says, looking forward to Rich and Fergie laugh about Reece James. Class that is. Vinayak Yoshi is in. Super Tiger, Phil Wright, Mark Clydesdale, John Stanley, Boy K, and so many more. Thank you so much all for joining us this evening. Hope we'll provide you with some entertainment, if not decent FPL advice. For those of you who are not Fantasy Football Hub members, we've currently got a Black Friday offer still on. We've extended it. If you want to use the full power of Fantasy Football Hub, you can now do so for a full 30 days for absolutely free. This includes our My Team feature, which we use for everything. Includes recommended transfers, predicted points through artificial intelligence, dedicated WhatsApp groups for pro members, and so much more. Haven't got time to go through it all, but don't forget it's all on the FFH app as well. It's an absolute no-brainer if you want to do well at FPL. Free for 30 days. So I think you get 4 or 5 game weeks still with that. Give it a go. You will not be disappointed. So we're going to focus this week. Last week we focused a bit more on kind of the next 8 or 9 weeks when Bakar was here. We're going to focus a bit more this week on the next 2 or 3 weeks, and kind of look at the teams which to target. Adam, who weren't here last week, but what's your take on the next 3 weeks? So, we got 3 game weeks now in 7 or 8 days. What's your plan to attack those weeks?
Yeah, I don't know if I'd say attack, but I don't think there's a team that's in. I'm just looking at the fixtures now. You possibly could say Liverpool, but there isn't a team, in my opinion, that has got 3 brilliant fixtures across the week. Brentford possibly, but then they have a blank, not too far away. And there's a lot of teams, so you could look at, and Brentford have got 2 away games as well. I think Wolves have got, after the Arsenal game, have got a nice back-to-back home games and have 3 home games in 4. So the likes of Hwang or potentially Wolves defensively could be an option, but I don't think for me there's any obvious. Here's a great opportunity for the next 3 fixtures. I think one of the bigger challenge facing us all is who's going to start all the matches.
Yeah.
Have we got enough cover on the bench? Have we got players that we feel are now to start your likes of your Watkins, Sakas, Salahs, etc.? I mean, even Salah's been known to this period to get a bench in. But I suppose on the flip side to that, the reality is if players do get benched, particularly the attacking ones, they're going to come on anyway. So it'll just be, and because everyone's so highly owned, it's not going to really have a huge impact. What's
your thought? Is this like in terms of strategy for the next 3 weeks? 'Cause everyone's trying to find an edge, right? You're trying to find an edge, or do you think that your edge will be just keep it cool, keep it calm, and target a more, a different part of the season that'll offer a bit more upside?
Do you know what? Really, really good question. And we were sort of talking a little bit off air, and I think I've been trying to find an edge and messing around and looking at it, and there isn't anything that I think is hugely exciting. Now, you could argue that I think it's possibly easier for Rich in his 3-4-3 setup, or I could take a hit to go 3-4-3, but am I confident that would lead to an increase in points? No, and the models back that up. I think if I was already on it, like Rich, it would be fine, but then it's effectively using that extra transfer, which is completely valuable. So I don't want to say it's, I think what I'm looking at the moment, I'm looking at sensible, boring moves. There was there's I mean at the moment the one player I haven't got is Saka that I really want, and well, I won't go into it too much detail because I think we'll talk about him later on. But for me, I can get him, and I've been looking at reasons not to get him and trying to balance it up. But he's just so consistent. He's just like, why? I could look for another option to get an edge. I think Bowen's an issue at the moment because I think even if he does play against Palace, fluid on the knee, it's an uncomfortable injury, and I think my worry would be, are we then going to be going into the Spurs game? Are they going to manage his minutes? Is he going to be out of it? And we're just going to constantly go in this cycle where I could just get Saka in and know he's going to play, and he's a world-class player. He can cause any defence problems.
Kicked to hell every week anyway, and gets up again, doesn't he? So
yeah, exactly. And to be fair to Bowen, his injury record is really good. Yeah. But I just think it's the fact that he didn't play last weekend. He's a player that usually does play, so that just worries me. There's obviously something in it, and I think it's a risk keeping him, which I don't need to take. So I think for me, like you alluded to, play sensibly. I think there's always opportunities to get an edge, but I think one mistake a lot of people make is trying to force it. And I think if I was trying to get an edge at the moment, I'd be trying to force it. We've got blank game weeks coming up, double game weeks. We've got weeks where we've got really high upside. But I think for me, it's about getting players that I'm confident will play as much football and get as much minutes on the pitch and that are consistent performers. So that, whilst they'll probably be quite similar to a lot of other people, I'm all right with that at the moment.
Right, I think it's a really good point. And like looking at my team, I was out on Saturday, so I kept tabs on the football scores, and I know obviously Gordon did well. I know Lascelles scored, but Mbuemo and Son, who were the two I was kind of almost most excited about, neither did absolutely anything. So I didn't check my rank, and I don't think I was on most of the weekend. I don't think I checked like the Sunday evening, and I was absolutely amazed to see my rank had almost halved. I think that just goes to show that you don't have to force it. I've got a very template team, and it just so happened that it was my turn this week for the kind of dice to kind of roll my way in terms of Palmer versus Gordon, or I don't know, Saliba versus Lascelles, or I went for Haaland captaincy when it early went Son, but none of my team, like none of them really, that they were outstanding. It was just a collective decent performance from my 11, but none of my 11 are differential.
65 was a great score last week because your average was in the low 40s, like 46, so you were 20 point gain on that, so that's great, any week like that.
And I just think based on that and based what you said there, Adam, is I'd have tried to, I can't remember. I brought him Bowman a week early, which I didn't fancy to do much against Arsenal, but I just set my team up really. So my transfer in did nothing, and still got that. So I often bemoan my luck. I know I do, but this week it fell my way, and I just think that you don't need to have this team of differentials, this great secret team that's going to smash it. You just need collectively your team to do well. I've had Son still. He haven't done anything still. If Son had have banged in a goal or two, I'd have been a massive green. So I like your point. Sorry, I'm using my team just as an example of my team is very template, but I still have my rank because it's just a decent team. So what's your thoughts, Rich?
Yeah, I'm quite excited about this period. I did a good wild card in game week 10. Gone from 2.5 million to top 800k in the last period. I'm happy with the progress in rank, but I'm also really, really happy with the squad set up and everyone in it. Now that's ominous, isn't it? Because whenever you feel a bit confident or cocky about your team, it normally results in a huge red arrow or a nightmare week. But I do feel really, really good about it. I really feel good about Arsenal. Obviously last night they were fantastic. They won 6-0. The goals coming in from everywhere. The defense is rock solid. So having two Arsenal defenders looks a really good shout, plus an attacker, mainly Saka, I think is the man to go for, as Adam said. And I feel really good about Liverpool. Liverpool's 3 fixtures they've now got. I've got the third striker. I've got Darwin Núñez in place. I just think I'm really well set up for the coming 3 fixtures. Now, there are 1 or 2 rotation risks in the team. Don't necessarily expect Darwin to start all 3, but I do think he's first choice. I've already made a transfer this week, which is a bit unlike me. I've got a double Arsenal defense now. Feel good about that, given that just their underlying numbers are so far ahead of any other team. So all you can do is set up the team as well as you can for the upcoming fixtures. And I just feel really good about it. Now, doesn't necessarily, you're only halfway there, but all you can do as a fantasy manager is set up your team. You can't play the game. So I just feel really good. I just feel really good about the ongoing momentum and the ongoing progress. So I think Arsenal and Liverpool are great teams to top up with if you've only got a couple of assets or 1 asset from those teams. And Buemo almost looks, essentially, if you haven't already bought him in already, don't worry about the fact that he's risen in price a couple of times. At 7 million, he's still great to go to. And even if you just hold him for 3 weeks, you can then move him on for a Chelsea asset or a different midfielder as the fixtures turn. So yeah, Brentford look good. Even if you're going for a Brentford defender, I know game week 18 is a blank and it's got to be navigated, but there are techniques for doing that. So Brentford look good for 1 or 2 assets as well. So I really like it. I think it's exciting. I really like the fact we're going to get, 30 Premier League matches in 8 days. We've got a whole week of, I think, Amazon fixtures in the UK, meaning that we will finally be able to have 10 games to watch as opposed to 5. So it's just a really exciting time. It's a really busy period. Hence, we're doing a two game weeks in one pod here because there's games every day virtually. So I'm really excited about it. But I would say Arsenal and Liverpool are the teams to target.
Yeah, got nothing more to add there really. A bummer, I think for sure. Good shout in the chat, Alex Mick. I'm considering this week. He said he would go for Pinnock over a second Arsenal defender. I quite like that myself actually.
Yeah,
I think he's 4. I want to say 4.6. So he's quite cheap. Really attacking. Really
the only thing about Pinnock, is if you aren't going to free hit in 18, you are stacking your bench for that double game week in 20, and therefore you've got no wriggle room for game week 18. So if you have like a few 3.9 defenders or an injured Luton player or something like that, you've got to fix those things before game week 18. It's not impossible to do that. It's just I think carrying two City or Brentford players max outfield players is probably the strategy for game week 18.
Go on, Adam.
As you mentioned, you're going to say it. You're going to say what a segue into game week 18. Aren't you?
Segue.
I'm predicting you now. There you go.
What a segue into game week 18, and just something we want to share. But before we move on, so our main topic of the podcast this week is whether is looking at 3-4-3. I think it's something now. The options that are coming up now. It makes it really exciting. But firstly, let's just touch on game week 18. So for those who don't know, there's a blank game in week 18. Brentford and Man City don't play, and Bakar, who works us here at the Hub, he was on last week. He put a tweet out this week, which I really, really liked, and he put all the pros and cons of free hitting in game week 18. It really got me thinking around Pinnock, for example, about that exact thing. He said pros of free hitting in game week 18. So can navigate the Haaland and Mbeumo blank. Arsenal play Liverpool, so can sell Arsenal or Liverpool defence or Saka. Can load up on Newcastle. They play Luton. Spurs have got Everton. Villa have got Sheffield United in game week 18. Newcastle, Spurs, Villa coverage will be low in all our teams by game week 18, and can load up on City for Luton in 16 and Palace in 17. So some really, really good pros in terms of, just play. I suppose my biggest pro when thinking about a free hit all the time is just carrying your team through, building your team without having to think about this bloody blank game week, and and know you're going to have blanks. You can just a free hit out of it. The cons, game week 29 is going to be a big blank, so his free hit in there could be more powerful. And he also says the value of free hit in 18 diminishes if Brentford or City don't double in game week 20, as it would make it easier to sell Brentford or City players in 18. It's a really good point as well. And reading a tweet by Ben Crellin this week, he still thinks they will be a Brentford and Man City double in game week 20. His kind of confidence has reduced a little bit. He was kind of 95% sure a few weeks ago. He's down to about 60 or 70% now, but he still thinks it will go in there. So they're the pros and cons. And Bakar's kind of summary there is best not commit to a strategy and be as flexible as possible until we get any double game week news. So this is the thing about having maybe City attack Brentford, as well. So just an interesting point there.
Well, there's one thing that's not on there that the listeners or viewers may not know, is that, as far as I know, there are not going to be anything like as many double game weeks in this latter half of the season as there were in 22-23. There was something like 14 double game weeks. I think we might get 3 or something like that. Now, we don't know what we don't know. We don't know if one of our monarchs is going to die. We don't know if we're going to get another pandemic. We don't know if we're going to have horrendous winter and loads of postponements. There's lots of things that could happen between now and the end of the winter that can wreak havoc with a football schedule. But if everything is just a normal season, which for the first time in 5 years it looks like it might be, we are only going to get postponements due to FA Cup fixtures and stuff like that in the second half of the season. So that does make it more feasible to look at using the free hit, because most typical strategies hold that chip back, keep it in your pocket because you want to use it in a double game week, or you want to use it in even on the last day of the season. So that's one thing that you've got to bear in mind, is there isn't going to be this flurry of doubles in all likelihood. So that's just one thing to add. It doesn't mean it's necessarily a pro or a con. It's just one thing to bear in mind. Personally, I'm not looking at it. I'd rather have it as an option. I mean, there was a big blank game week, I think last year, game week 28 or something. We got a big warning for it. We were working on our teams to navigate that blank for ages and ages, but that had 5 blank fixtures in it, or 5 or 6. This has got 1. It's just 1 fixture. Yeah. You've still got 9 games that week. It's a small blank, so I wouldn't say it's worth a free hit. A free hit's a very powerful chip, and I'm not sure you'll get a 15+ point gain by free hitting. That's just my view. That's it's good. It's certainly a good point.
It is a good point. I was contemplating playing it, in all honesty, just to kind of. I like the fixtures. Newcastle have got Luton, Spurs have got Everton, Villa got Sheffield United. So I think I like those. But then looking at it, it's probably quite easy for me, because I've got Son, for example. I've already got Watkins. I've already got kind of half a team in place. But I don't like managing my team around these blanks and doubles. I just find it really frustrating. Adam, what's your kind of early take on that?
Yeah, it was the point you just mentioned is quite relevant, because I think if you were looking at the fixtures, you think Son at home to Everton. I think Salah against Arsenal. Is it Arsenal? Always fancy Salah at home, and I think Liverpool in a night match at home is always decent. And then you've got Villa at home to Sheffield United. So you've got 3 decent fixtures, which we'll probably have players for. So I'm not really sure there'll be huge upside. Sure. One thing that's crossed my mind to do, and I think I'll do this, Haaland hasn't risen in price. So what you could do, and also Mbeumo, yes, he's got a good fixture the week after, but it's not long. I think he's got maybe two matches. Obviously, this depends on whether they have a double game week or not. But what I'm very, very tempted to do is actually sell Haaland for a striker, and you can pick anybody. So Isak, for example. Yeah, exactly.
Just buy him back again.
Yeah, exactly. So I think if you take 2 transfers into
That's a
that,
good shout.
I think that's a really, really good option too, because you're not paying any more to get him back, and effectively you're losing. You could say you're losing 4 points, but but I would gamble on a player that's got high upside. So
It's like
I
a
even
mini
think,
free hit, isn't it? Really?
yeah, I think so. Because I even think someone like Darwin at home to Arsenal, I'd quite fancy him in that. Love Liverpool at home, so I think there's options that you
Sure.
could make quite a good free hit team, and even if ultimately it costs you a -4 or -8, you only need one of those players to go off to more than make up for it. So yeah, that's what I'm thinking at the moment.
I was just thinking
But
actually, just looking at the targets of those teams, already got Lascelles and Gordon, so we could easily add
yeah,
Isak into that for the Luton game. Spurs have already got Son, and Villa have already got Cash and Watkins. So that would be over. Like that's half of the free hit team there already
exactly,
without
exactly.
everything else. So yeah, that's a really good shout actually. Yeah, interesting. So that's helped me make my mind about John Pinnock. I was tossed up between Pinnock or maybe Zinchenko. I can't think, but that's actually helped me. Thank you, chaps.
Yeah, Pinnock will push you. I think we had a conversation like this last week. Pinnock will push you towards free hitting. Let's just bear that in mind if you're buying him. It will make it seem more attractive, especially if there are some other issues that surface in the next few weeks for your team.
Segueing through there, we talked about Isak and Darwin there. Segway City today, chaps.
Segway City.
Segway City. Third striker. So Rich is on a 3-4-3, wild card into a 3-4-3, so worked out very well for him. Adam and I both got Archer on the bench, and we've been playing 3-5-2 most weeks, but it is getting to the season, isn't it? You look at these third strikers now; they're very exciting. Like we're kind of locked in with Haaland and Watkins. My recommended transfer this week is Watkins to Darwin. I really want Darwin. I think he could do incredibly well these next 2 or 3 weeks. But I don't want to get rid of Watkins. But I don't want to get rid of any of the rest of my team either. So I suppose for me, my kind of summary stands at the moment is if into terms of making a transfer, there's always a player you want in, but the second part of the equation for me is there always must be someone you want to take out. And I think for me, the second part isn't there. I find it really difficult because there's no one I want to take out. So, Adam, can I come to you first, just on your thoughts on this? Because I suspect you're kind of in the same boat.
Well, I've got a bit of a dilemma this week. So I could go 3-4-3 as an option. So I've not got Saka, but I've got Bowen, and I've also got Diaby, so I could do Bowen and Diaby out to Saka and Palmer, Saka and Hwang, etc. So I've got a few options that I can do there. The alternative is I could bring in, instead of doing that move, I could do a move that involved bringing in Darwin, and I'd probably do a -4 because I could only bring in a midfielder up to 4.6. So I'd probably look at Palmer and Hwang then, for example, and take out Diaby as well. Or alternatively, I could look at Trippier. And so effectively, I've sort of just boiled it down. Who do I want more out of? Darwin, Saka, and Trippier. I think the exciting one's Darwin. I think he is genuinely quite exciting. I think because I've got Lascelles, I'm only going to really gain from Trippier's attacking points. And although we all get a high XA and create decent amount of chances, very few of them actually turn into goals. So I'm not that comfortable with that. Saka's the one for me. Now his XG and his goals have been down, but one thing as a non-owner, and actually just looking at him over a long period of time, he just finds ways to get points. And as he got 4 assists in the last 5, and because he's being a bit more creative rather than scoring that, helps him on the bonus. I feel he starts as a flaw, particularly in some of these games we're expecting Arsenal to keep a clean sheet. He starts at a 3. And because there's doubts over, I know with Jota out, that Darwin will play more minutes, but Darwin really starts with a 1 because we don't have that guarantee he's going to start. So I feel I'm already and so many people are already betting on Saka. I looked at some data and I looked from like the midpoint of last season, and there's 6 players that really, really stand out for consistency, and they're the 6 top scoring players this season, which are Saka, Son, Salah, Watkins, Haaland, and Mbeumo. So I could put myself in a position where I have all of them. So I like Darwin, and I think if you're in a 3-4-3, I would stick with it and play it. I just don't, and because I haven't got the certainty of minutes, I feel that in my position, it's a safer and better. I feel like I'm betting with more certainty, whereas with Darwin, I'd be playing a risk. And I think, given what I said I wanted to do, is I just don't want the headaches. I would love to own Darwin, but I'm not selling Watkins. I mean, he's
that's the one thing. I mean, we should talk about that. A lot of people will still think about jumping off Watkins and for a few weeks because I've got those City and Arsenal coming, and I know they're home games, but they are the top 2 teams, right? That they've got to play. You could jump off Watkins next week or now and get him back again for game week 18. So there are options to do it. It's how do Villa, because Villa are in the top 4 now as well, so they're jostling for position with these guys. So, but you generally speaking, Watkins is like a glue player, isn't he? He's playing like Kane, he's returning like Kane, but he only costs 8.5 million. So there's nothing wrong with him. It's daft to sell him, isn't it? So that's why people are ducking the 3-4-3, I think.
Well, I think that the problem with going from Watkins to Darwin or even Isak is you're going to get 270 minutes in the 3 games from Watkins. You don't know what you're going to get from the other 2. No. So if it was a case of we knew we were going to get, because I also think with the injuries they've got, I actually think it could make Klopp be a little bit more careful with his squad, and he has form for rotating in this type. Salah typically gets his rest historically in and around December in the midweek games. He's done or one of those these fixtures coming up, so he's got form for resting players. So I think Darwin's an incredible option, but you just know what you're getting from Watkins, and Watkins has scored against the bigger club. It wouldn't be surprised if Watkins. I don't think the ceiling's huge, but I wouldn't be surprised if he scored against City and Arsenal. I mean, I think he did. He got returns against. He scored against both of them last season, so I wouldn't be too worried. And I think if Villa are going to, and in fact Villa at home as well.
Yeah.
I don't know if we'll win both of them, but I quite fancy us to do well in those games because Villa Park it just completely transformed, and there's something about a night game as well, and they're both night games.
Oh, are they? Okay.
Yeah.
You're going to be at them as well, aren't you?
Well, annoyingly, I can't go to the Man City game because I've got work Christmas party, so I can't really get out of it. But yeah, I think both matches will be brilliant atmospheres, and I think it'll be difficult for City and Arsenal, and I think Villa will probably score in both fixtures. So I don't think Watkins or Hall, but I don't know. You're taking him out to bring him back in, which is 2 transfers, isn't it? And we've just said how precious transfers are. So yeah, I mean, I do like your setup, Rich. But then every setup has got. So you haven't got Son, for example.
I've run the gauntlet with Son for 3 weeks, and it's not comfortable. Eventually, obviously, Son's going to score goals. It's just whether or not he's going to get those consistent double-figure hauls that he was getting when they had Maddison and a better defence. It's the fact those sort of Tottenham suspensions and injuries have kind of, they've gone in my favour. At time when I don't own any of their players, and that's just a bit of luck for me, nothing more. But Son's still a great asset, but he is the route. He is the easy route to a 3-4-3 if you fancy as a manager, changing it up, because it's gone a bit not stale, but it's gone a bit samey, hasn't it?
Mm.
Everyone's got Watkins and Haaland, everyone's got Saka, Salah, Mbuemo, and now it's a Gordon versus Palmer conversation. Well, I've got both Gordon and Palmer, and I've had them both for 4 weeks, so I don't need to spend any transfers getting them. So it's nice. It's a nice position to be in, but I've just got a benching headache every week. So it's that's what a 3-4-3 will give you. Is that either you've got to bench one of them. So tricky, other problems. But yeah, I mean, I would say, if you're wild carding, definitely have a look at it. If you've still got a wild card in your pocket, look at changing to a 3-4-3, because there is a lot of the enablers are in midfield. There are other ones, Gibbs White and Hwang, as you say. So there's lots of cheaper players.
So if you're wild carding now,
yeah,
who misses out? Who are the ones that
I
you
would start with Darwin because of the fixtures. But there's a nice jump to Isak from game week 17. So you do 3 with Darwin, then you move Darwin to Isak for 17 and 18 onwards, assuming of course Wilson is still out, because you can, and assuming of course he's come through some of those. Newcastle got a hell of a lot of fixtures, so we might see, as Gordon starting up front and Isak being given rests and stuff. But assuming Isak's going to play most games because he's the main striker, and there's that he's on pen, so there's lots of advantage to move to Isak. I just wouldn't quite move to him straight away. I'd start with Darwin. And yeah, I would have a 4-man midfielder, which would be fairly template. Salah, Saka, and Mbuemo, and at least one of Gordon and Palmer.
So you still wouldn't get so Son if you were wild carding now.
I would not. I think Son is a hold, probably a hold. Don't buy. That's how it feels like to me. I'm not scared of him at not owning him anymore. I was initially, but I'm not. Eventually, I'll be on the back of a huge EO hit, but I'm not worried about it at the moment, especially with the City game next.
What about you, Fergie? Who would, if you were wild carding, who would miss out, and who would you go 3-4-3 or 3-5-2?
Really good question. I think I still want Salah, Son, and Saka, because, as you mentioned earlier, I like that front sit. That high scoring six, the 90-minute men, especially in this period. I like the thought of that, and I find that I've never really had. I think I went down for a bit last year. Didn't have much success to him. He's never really a player which scares me, rightly or wrongly. I think he gets very unlucky as well. I know he scored 2 the other day, didn't he? It was against Luton maybe, where he scored 2 and they were both offside and stuff as well. I'm never that scared of Darwin, rightly or wrongly. So I think if I was going now, I think I'd still stay. I like the flexibility of the, and I like the fact that I can have Son, Salah, and Saka, just the comfort blankets, and then you can have 2 of Gordon or Palmer, or Gordon and Palmer, or I've still got like Mbuemo as well. I've still got Watkins. So as kind of boring as it sounds, I think my team, the way it's set up at the moment, in the front 7 is probably as optimal as it can be, and I don't think I would change it. And this is where I'm struggling in terms of playing the game. Is I've got 2 free transfers again, and I'm almost not even sure where to kind of use them. And it's finding it's judging between trying to work out whether to chase even more upside, which historically for me always kind of burns me, like a Watkins to Darwin move, for example. That's something which I've looked at, but it's one which is exciting, but also one which I feel can backfire massively, or just, which is how I used to play and what I probably should play, is just neaten around the edges of my team. Even make a keeper transfer. if I'm really, really desperate, just take out Turner and put in someone else, or take out I kind of like Matty Cash. He's probably done his job now. So yeah, and I think it's Matthew Jones from the Hub. I think he made a statement a few weeks ago. I can't remember it word for it, but I'm paraphrasing. But it was like, sometimes the biggest differential is just playing sensibly and not trying to chase. And I feel like I'm trying to do that at the moment. And but yeah, just looking at the other forwards as well. Obviously with Brentford we mentioned and Buemo, Visser, obviously plays as well in that team. I would expect some returns from him at a cheaper price. Maybe he's more attainable in a 3-4-3 as well. You don't have to release 3 million or something like that. We touched on Isak, got Jesus and Solanke in there as well. I think they're all quite exciting, and I think they all play Luton in these next 3 or 4 weeks. So, there's kind of even a case potentially, just if there's nothing to do on the team, just hop to whoever's playing Luton, because I think they all play him in the next 3 or 4 weeks.
Jesus looked really good last night. He was excellent.
Who's that? Sorry,
Jesus looked really good last night. Yeah.
But he's quite expensive, isn't he, in comparison?
7.8. Yeah, they're all around that sort of just under 8. Yeah, he's of the three. He's he's 7.8, Darwin 7.6, and Isak's 7.4. And in these times of stretched team values, that makes a difference.
There's a fair bit in the chat about what to do with Alvarez. I would definitely hold him this week against Spurs. I've got to be honest. I think it could be. Well, I've no idea what that score is going to be. I just know there's going to be loads of goals. I don't know whether they're going to be shared, whether they're going to be for Man City, but there's going to be loads of goals.
I'd bin Alvarez.
Really? This?
I think,
this week?
I think
straight
so.
away.
Wow.
Yeah, right. Straight away. I think I just think there's great hop-on opportunities to both Isak and Darwin.
Okay.
So I don't see why you wouldn't go for. I think
he's not as sticky as Watkins, is he? Definitely.
Nah, and I think just how City are playing. I mean, I don't know. I think he's sort of trickled along with points, and because he's a quality player, he's capable of pulling something out of the bag. But I just think that, he had a really good, strong start to the season. But last 4 games, if you look at the underlyings, 0.12 XG, 0.06, 0.15, 0.23. So the XGA is just really, really down. And he's got 1 assist in the last 4. So I just think there's better options. And I think one of the problems you sometimes have with players, and particularly players like this, is because it's City and he's in the team still, there never feels the right time to get rid of him. So yeah, I would probably get rid of him and go for either particularly if you can go to Darwin or Isak, I would do it. Without question.
We've had a few shouts in the chat as well. I really like this. We've been focusing on the 3-4-3s, but Luis Diaz could also have. If you don't want to move to 3-4-3, but have good Liverpool attacking coverage still, he'd be really good. So yeah, I like that. And
it could be good. Well, a good Bowen replacement, for instance, couldn't he?
Yeah, I think I prefer that. Seeing Jota's out now with a kind of longish term injury. And I don't think there's anyone else really who would probably start on that left hand side. So Luis Diaz, I think, could be a really good option there.
I don't like that at all.
Really?
No, I just think that if you look at his history, number one, he's actually had some bad injuries which haven't helped him. His goal scoring record, because this is the thing, you're comparing him, so he's almost identical price to Darwin. Darwin much prefer, it's not even close. And I think Darwin will get more minutes and more goals. And I think also in and around that, he's expensive as well, because compared to that, you could save 2 million and go for Anthony Gordon, who I think is equally, if not better. So I just feel like there's better options to go for, and this is from a fantasy perspective. I actually quite like him as a player, but I think there's better. And it's not saying he's bad. I just feel that both defenders and I think midfielders, there's cheaper options that are better. Obviously, if Bowen's fit, why would you not go to Bowen? I think he's just a better option. So probably a no from me.
Fair enough. Just in terms of, we just want to do a little bit of a head-to-head. So for those, so for those who are thinking of getting rid of Son or Saka, especially if you go into a 3-4-3, is which one kind of would you get rid of? Rich, you've already said that you're not too concerned about not owning Son. This, I think it's go on.
It's a bit of no. I mean, it's a bit scary not owning him. He's probably the best finisher in the Premier League in terms of you look at his percentage conversion or whatever. It's elite. He's an elite player. Trouble is, at the moment, the players behind him aren't as good as they were in the first 8 weeks of the season. Tottenham have lost 3 games on the bounce, and that is mainly because they've lost their central defence. They've lost James Maddison, and they've got various other injury issues as well. And so they said, well, so that's bound to affect the supply line for Spurs. And although the manager is continuing to play in a very positive attacking style, it's really all he knows. So he's going to continue to do that, but they are going to go down some weeks. And so you're now talking about getting a player who is playing for a team that doesn't win all the time. When Spurs were winning all the time, this is terribly simplistic stuff, but when Spurs are winning all the time, their assets are much more attractive. But there are other teams like Liverpool and Arsenal and City and so on, and they are winning all the time. So therefore, I think their assets make better use of the sort of the value game, which is what FPL is all about. And Son is 9.6 million. He's just dropped from 9.7, but that's a lot. It's nearly 10 million quid, and therefore it is worth asking the question as to whether or not you can go without him. And that's all it is. It's fine to hold him, absolutely fine. And I'm still jealous that I don't have him, but I'm not scared that I don't have him. I think that's the difference.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because I've listened to a few pods this week, and everyone's just taking it as given that Son is the 3rd best asset in the game. I don't agree with that.
No,
I think
9.7.
I think Salah and Haaland are heads and shoulders. They're the by far the best and absolutely great. I think that then there is a level below, but the problem at Son is more expensive than both Saka and Watkins. And I would argue that Watkins' consistency in particular, and Saka's, has been better than Son's. And there's not. I think they're all pretty close on things. But I think because they're cheaper, I sort of get it. And it's if you're not going to captain him, what else can you do with the money? There are some more. What you could do, because I thought Spurs were really good and looked very dangerous. And I think if you watched the game, Rich, you'd have found it very, very hard. It would have been. I mean, it's hard as a Villa fan watching that first half an hour, but it would have been a hard watch. And I did, like I said, I did expect Villa to catch Son offside quite a few times, and it did happen. And he was quite a way offside for all of the goals. So, but like you said, his finishing is brilliant, and Spurs attack was great. But I think Spurs could offer some other attacking options that are cheaper. So I think Pedro Porro was unreal in that game, and he looks absolutely great in gold. Udogie got into some good positions as well, as I think he could be a cheaper alternative. But then you've also got the likes of Johnson. Yeah. You've got the likes of Kulusevski. So I think there's who actually look quite good. He's playing a little bit more central. So I think there could be some cheaper routes in, because it doesn't necessarily mean that Son's going to hog all the points, because he will do well, he will score goals, but he's almost 1 million more than Saka. He's about 1 million more than Saka and Watkins, or 0.8, etc. That is an upgrade of, say, let's say if you were doing in defence, that's the difference of going between I don't know, Gabriel and Saliba, or someone, maybe someone,
Harry Maguire and Reece James.
Yeah, well, it is. Yeah, you could see I was struggling. You saved the day there. Yeah. Although, actually, is based on recent events, I don't know if that is an upgrade. But I don't know. I sort of get your point on it. I think it is hard to sell, because if you're looking at the fixtures after City, and actually historically he's done well at City. He's got quite a good record at the Etihad, and particularly with Ruben Dias has looked a little bit suspect the last couple of games, and I think he'll be fancying his chances there. And with Spurs, they're gonna go. They're not gonna go and sit back and try and soak up pressure. They're gonna go toe to toe with City. So Haaland's gonna get loads of chances, but you'd fancy Spurs to score. I would anyway, and so I think. And then afterwards, they've got West Ham at home, who've been pretty awful defensively. Newcastle at home is a bit tougher. But then they've got Forest, Everton, Brighton and Bournemouth before he goes away to the Asian Cup. I quite like him for those four, if I'm being honest. I think they're the ones that would worry
I'm
me.
not saying I'm never going to vote.
Oh, he's backtracking now.
Yeah,
we
yeah,
should
no, it
we should
doesn't.
rename the name of the pod to "How do we get back to
yeah.
352 for Rich?"
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
what. So out of the two, just to summarize, gents, would you get rid of, if you had to, gun to your head because you wanted Darwin or Isaac too much? Would you get rid of Son or Saka? Adam, who'd you get rid of?
Oh God, this is a tough one. I don't think I'd get rid of either, but you put a gun to my head. I think Son is more. I just Saka keeps finding a way of getting points, and it's happened for such a long period of time. I think it will continue. So, and it's just because he's cheaper. I think that you can do it. At least you can upgrade, and if they score, he doesn't even need to match Son's points if he's a couple of points below, but the upgrade that you can afford can outscore the other player. That's what. So yeah, but it'd be scary not owning Son. And what?
Scary.
Just don't watch Spurs games because
well, I'll probably have to watch on Sunday.
Yeah, which is a shame because they're great to watch.
Yeah.
Rich, I assume you would get rid of.
I would,
Son
yeah, I would. Of
too.
the time, I've owned Saka every minute of the season. He's going nowhere. Just he's a brilliant fantasy asset. And plays for the team that is stuck. We're being criticised for being too defensive. Then they go and win 6-0 in the Champions League. I think I think they've that team they played last night was their first 11, and it clicked, and it was really good. So I think you'll see, that same team against Wolves at the weekend, without any changes in it. They've got the opportunity to rest a couple of players as well yesterday, or 2 or 3 players. And so I just think their Arsenal look really good. So I wouldn't lose Saka right now.
Yeah, so I think the only argument to keep Son ahead of Saka is it just holds his price point, because I think if you do get rid of Son, you'll spend the cash, and then it'll be harder to get kind of back to him. You mentioned after these 3 games, Spurs do go on a really good run of 4 games, so you're going to have to maybe take a hit or something to get him back, probably. But yeah, can't argue with any of that. Just a quick look at total predicted points for the next 4 game weeks. Ireland top 33, Salah 27, Son 27, Darwin right up there, 4th overall predicted points. Cheeky wink off Rich there, 23.
Yeah.
Saka 22 and Buemo 21. Bruno stood up there, scored again last night. Gordon 20, Watkins 20. Nicholas Jackson is still up there at the moment based on the upcoming fixtures and his minutes, and Kunk will be back soon, so his minutes will probably drop. Palmer, Martinelli, Odegaard we haven't mentioned. Craig in the chat mentioned about Odegaard. I think he's a good shout. Jesus up there as well, and interesting stuff there. Best captain this week, interesting one. This one, top predicted points, fantasyfootballhub.co.uk. Haaland 8.5 points against Spurs predicted. That is really high. High predicted points against Spurs. Salah second 7.4. Darwin third 6.3. On the poll, 49% of the vote went to Salah at home to Fulham, which really surprised me.
It's the fixture,
and then
isn't
Haaland 36% and Buemo third 5%. Rich, who will you be captain in this game week and why?
Yeah, it's not as easy a one as previous weeks. I think I'm still going to put it on Haaland, partly because of Tottenham's defensive state. They're on their second choice defense. They've lost key midfielders, I think. And again, I'm not a tactical genius, but basically, the likes of, I think it's Bissouma, I think, is out. On
he's back. He's back for next game. Bissouma.
Oh, he's back, is he? But who's the guy that got injured?
Bentancur.
Bentancur. He's a key midfielder. They haven't got him. They're going to have to go with Højgaard, or what is it? Not Højgaard, is it Højgaard? Yeah, Per-Emerick.
Højbjerg.
What's his name? Højbjerg, that's it, yeah. So they're going to have to go with him. I think City are just going to run through the midfield. I can see that being a 4-2 type game.
Yeah.
And therefore Haaland's bound to be in amongst it. So I just think it just tips it for Haaland for me, and it's the last game of the week as well. So you can carry your captain and some hope into that last game. And also, the Liverpool game isn't on TV in the UK as well. Now, I don't. That shouldn't have a bearing, but I think they're showing the West Ham Palace game out of all
Do you
those
know what's
2 o'clock
so
matches.
annoying?
It's ridiculous.
Every
Yeah.
time on a Sunday where teams have
Yeah.
played in Europe, West Ham are the first game.
Yeah.
Which, if you're going to watch any of them, watching Villa are more entertaining, Liverpool are more entertaining, and Brighton are more entertaining. So,
Exactly.
what
So we're
a
not gonna see it.
Sky are having a mare, but it's been consistent that West Ham have been the game, and potentially with no Bowen, so no fancy interest. So
Exactly.
sort it out, Sky.
Yeah. So Haaland, mate. Haaland just.
And yourself, Adam?
It is close because I can't remember the numbers, but remember a few weeks back when I was talking about Salah, how many games he's got a goal or an assist at home. I think it was 14 at the time. It might be 15 now with the Brentford game, but I can go back and work it out, which is incredible. And I think it was only one of those that it was an assist. So it was like he scored 14 out of 15 effectively, which is unbelievable. I think what it comes down to for me is I like captain to think about the ceiling, and watching the Spurs game on Sunday, Watkins got a lot of chances, particularly I think he had a couple with his 2 or 3 with his head. He's a disallowed goal. He put one just wide, and one he probably should have scored from about two yards out. Haaland, you can just see him. Davis actually did okay. But aerially, they're going to struggle, and you can just see those like chipped crosses to the back post. We've seen a few of them for Haaland recently, and that's one avenue I can see him really, really exploiting. And then look in behind, Spurs are going to go for it, so I could see a Haaland hat trick. And I've always said that if Haaland's at home, I'd go with him because his record at the Etihad is incredible. I think it is a 50-50 one because Salah in a game, Salah at Anfield is incredible as well. But I just think
it's one of the point that just swings it for me, and that's because I've got Darwin. That's almost like I've got an extra chip in that game already. And so when you sort of like going captain Salah plus Darwin plus Tsimikas, I'm really throwing a lot of that game on if I put the captaincy on it as well. So I think for me, just having Darwin, there's almost like an insurance against not captaining Salah. So it just sort of helps me sway it to Haaland. Just so I'd throw that in.
That makes sense.
Yeah, all of a.
What about you?
Yeah, even as a Spurs fan, it's all Haaland. He's gonna have loads of chances. I can see him breaking records for shots on target, whatever else. So, but I would also say I do think Man City are fragile at the back and give up chances, and I think Rich's scoreline earlier, kind of a 4-2 sort of scoreline, is I think is realistic. So hopefully
that helps Haaland, doesn't it?
It does. Yeah, it does.
Because it takes away any defensive bonus opportunity.
So I'm hoping that Son will be our extra chip, Adam, in this Man City game. So Haaland all day against Spurs. As much as I love Spurs, I love the way they're playing, and it's interesting that even after Spurs lost at home against Villa last week, they were clapped off the pitch, and I absolutely feel like that because I just think that as a Spurs fan, we're building a mentality, and we're building something. You can't just I would rather build a mentality of playing on the front foot, playing positive football, going for it. And kind of lose a few games. I think Ange just built himself a bit of time in terms of I think he's going to have time to build the squad basically and build this mentality. Now we're going to win some, we're going to lose some. Every game is going to be entertaining and really enjoyable and a real spectacle. And at the moment, after what Spurs fans just witnessed for the last 4 or 5 years since Pochettino was left, it's an absolute joy to watch. So keep it going, Ange. I don't mind losing 4-2 to Man City if we put up a good show and try to the death. So it's a really nice change, really, really good to watch. Okay, Fergie's a punt, Gameweek 14-17. Nothing too exciting this week. I always think of a better punt as we're kind of in the show. I do think Luis Diaz would have been a good one actually. I'd like to have gone for him, but I am going for fixture volume. I do think double up sorry, not fixture quality. I do think a double up with this and another player could yield quite good returns over these next 3 weeks. We haven't talked about a lot in the last few weeks. We showed him earlier. He's a forward. He's a cheapish forward, so you only need about 1.5 million to get up to him. But I do think that Johan Visser could be a really good punt for the next 3 weeks. Plays, he plays a lot of minutes. Plays up front with home to Luton and away to Brighton and Sheffield United. I know they're away games, but they're decent away games, and I do think that this is going to get a couple of returns in these next 3 games. So I would go for Darwin ahead of him overall, but in terms of him being low owned, 6 million. If you double up on Mbomo and Visser, I think they could be really, really dangerous these next few games. Good shout earlier as well for Trent as well. A lot of people are getting quite excited about Trent these next few games, which is a good good shout as well.
Yeah, if you're on a wild card, could be a really nice differential.
We haven't touched on Kelleher just briefly. I've heard kind of mixed reports. One, he's going to be out for like 5 weeks, and then one saying he's going to be out for a week or two. I'm personally not going to go for Kelleher, only because, well, if Alisson was confirmed out for 5 or 6 weeks, I don't think I'd go for Kelleher anyway, just because I've got Tsimikas and Salah, and I wouldn't want to block anyway. If Darwin suddenly cracks, I think he's a block more than anything. Have you guys got just any more to add on Kelleher at all?
Yeah, I think it's a good move for anyone that, like you said, he's got Turner. You free up, what is it, 0.1?
Yeah.
Or even if just having a playing goalkeeper, and actually. When a lot are on Areola, when he goes away to Spurs, you could have Kelleher versus Sheffield United. Yeah,
Gameweek 15.
So you could get Sheffield United.
Tempting. There's a lot of people. If you like me, you're carrying these 2 free transfers through each week. You haven't really got much to do with them. And therefore, you're trying to not you don't want to burn a transfer, but do that sort of transfer in the middle of next week. Maybe just as you say, do Turner to Kelleher. My problem is I've already got 3 Liverpool, so I'd have to do it as a combination move by probably shipping out Darwin or shipping out Tsimikas to make that work. But if you're not trebled, it's a really nice move of an otherwise redundant transfer. So good.
Yeah. Just news that it looks like. Alex has just said in the chat that Salah starts this evening, which again may slightly affect
his Gakpo starting. That's what I want to know.
I don't know. We just know that Salah is. I saw that Liverpool were 10-1 on for the game this evening, so we can expect a few goals this evening. Be interested to see if Darwin starts as well. Let's look at our teams for the coming game week. Adam, we've got your team on screen. What are your thoughts and plans for the coming game week?
Oh wow! Nothing excites me. So, okay. So I feel the issues I've got. I feel that if I'm looking at my attack, I've got 2 free transfers. So I think I'll just go from a team. Sorry, I've got Areola in goal. I'll stick with that. Fine. Crystal Palace without Eze, without not Decore. It's who got injured for them. Let's have a look. They've lost their defensive midfielder. It's Decore. It is Decore, isn't it? He got quite a bad injury. So it could be a clean sheet there. I've got Gabriel, Cash, Taylor, Anderson, and Lascelles. I think I'll start Gabriel almost certain. Well, I will start Gabriel. I'll probably start Lascelles and I'll probably start Taylor and bench Cash. That will depend a little bit on tonight. I don't think Cash plays Bournemouth, and this is my reason why. So Kamara's suspended. I do a predicted team, for Emma jump the wave and all of that, but I don't know the Villa team for tonight. But based on what I think, with Kamara being suspended, I think we'll start with a back 3. Because Kamara tends to drop back into the right back position, so I expect that Konza, Carlos and Torres will continue as a sort of 3 with Konza pushing right back. I don't think it works with Cash playing in that right midfield. I think we lose too much, but we need somebody to hold the width on the right. So I think, and the way Bailey's playing at the moment, it'll start Bailey. So I think I could see Cash missing out, and but a bit will depend on tonight. So I don't, I haven't had the team news through. So I don't think I'll start Cash, particularly when Charlie Taylor's got Sheffield United.
You got to play.
And Lascelles. I just like Newcastle at home. I think I wouldn't be surprised if they beat Man United 2-0. It's such a hard place to go. So I think I've got options in my defence. I don't think I need. I probably will make a transfer in game week 15. Not sure as to what yet. And then in midfield, I've got Mbeumo, Salah, and Son. Happy with those three. Up front, Watkins and Haaland. Happy with those two. The two that I'm looking at transferring this week is Bowen and Diaby. I've got 2 free transfers. The problem with Bowen, as I said earlier, is that fluid on the knee is an issue, because even if he gets through the game on Sunday, I just don't see it clearing up quickly, and it's just going to be. So I'm not. I think he's a sell for me, particularly as he hasn't been involved again tonight. And then Diaby, I really like him, but he's not a player that's going to play 90 minutes over the next few game weeks. And I just think for he's 6.7, there's cheaper players that will match him. I think, like your Anthony Gordons, Hwangs, etc. So, I think I'm going to go Bowen to Saka almost certainly. To fund that, I have to sell Diaby. Or do I have to? Let's check.
You will do. Yeah, I think we have 0.3. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if. Yeah, I was going to see if I could do it with selling Cash. I don't think I can. So yeah, to do it, I'm going to have to sell Diaby. So I'm probably going to do. I've got option. I'm probably going to bring in Cole Palmer, just because he's. I can't see much between him, Hwang, Anthony Gordon. I can't quite afford. I don't really like Morgan Gibbs-White, so I think just go with the cheaper one. Chelsea have got good fixtures. He's on penalties. His record actually for I wasn't sure if he was a proper goal scorer, but when you look at his youth team and under 21 record, he scored a lot of goals. And if you forget, he scored a couple of goals for Man City at the start of the season. So yeah, I think he's just and for 5 million, because he's enabled me to have a power front six. If he gets an assist every couple of games, I'm happy with that. So I think that's the move. What would you guys do? And would you guys do anything different?
I'd probably, funny enough, I'd probably keep Bowen if the
okay.
I've been doing a lot of ultra stuff this week. I'd probably say if you've got Bowen and he's due back, I'd give him a game before, because he is somebody that I worry about not owning. And it's particularly if you've had him from sort of 7 million upwards and you've got quite a lot of accrued value in him. I would say he's worth seeing what he's like for a game before you get rid of him. I know you want Saka, and so therefore you are getting a great player instead. But I would just say, I'm not so sure about them. I think Diaby's a sell, and I think you could do the Diaby. I might just do Diaby to Gordon or Diaby to Palmer and roll. I think the rest of the team is fine.
Interesting, yeah.
I just would advocate keep rolling that second transfer, because we know we're going to get into a right mess, next week when we get a flurry of injuries or rotations or team news or whatever. And you're going to want to use those 2 frees to rapidly restructure. And I just think it's worth rolling that second free transfer for as long as you can. Whether you can carry it all the way through to the blank or not, I don't know. But it's definitely worth holding on to if you can. I think it seems fine. Especially what do you, Taylor, you want to play Taylor, don't you?
What do you think on Bowen, Fergie?
I think I'd keep. I think those next 2, Palace and Spurs, next 3 are really good. And I think because you've got a decent rest of your team, I think I'd agree. Like before Rich said Diaby to Gordon, I think that's the move I would make as well. Especially now I've kind of learned a bit more around Newcastle's upcoming fixtures in the next few weeks. My only concern in your team would be Cash. Do you think the Cash starts on the weekend? Definitely starts. No.
I think it's unlikely.
Yeah. That's the only one.
I've sold him.
but I could change my opinion on that. So Yeah, so I mean, I could actually sell cash, so I could do, but I think the players that I'd want, I prefer next week. So like Pedro Porro's the one that I'd
Yeah.
want.
I think the
Really, really
fact that
like him.
Taylor's got that home game to Sheffield United can affords you a week of more information, or a game week of more information.
Yeah,
If if he won home to Sheffield United, I would consider a defensive transfer as well. But I don't think you need to.
I'll wait and see what Moyes says on cash.
Yeah.
I mean, on Bowen, if he says, look, he's fit, he's ready, he's good to go.
Mm.
It's the uncertainty, because I think that I could see Saka doing well at Wolves and Luton, and so. Whereas I just don't like the unknown, and particularly I just worry about that injury. I don't think it's he's not a player to miss games, which makes it worse in my opinion.
And the only other
And
the only other question, and I'm asking it quite selfishly as well, is what are you doing with Ariola and Turner in the next few weeks?
I'm happy to keep Ariella. I think
okay.
I might, like I said, if I've got a spare transfer, I might bring in the Liverpool keeper. But if I look at it, I think the next four, Palace could be okay.
That's okay.
Spurs away is tough, but he'll probably get some save points. Fulham away is fine, and Wolves at home fine. So I think there's four okay fixtures, and then I might, if at some point, look at moving him on. But I think the next four are okay.
I think I'll probably get Sanchez, Fergie, around about game week 16, 17 time.
Yeah,
I think he's all right till then.
that's
But I'll
fine,
probably, I'm looking at Chelsea. I was thinking about Colwill for Chelsea, but there's a little bit of a doubt over his reliable start now. So I'm just waiting to see how Chelsea look. But I think I'll just move Areola to Sanchez.
Have you got any spare money in the bank?
No, my problem is I've got no cash. So that's why I want to hang on to the two transfers so I can do something to generate some.
Just to finish your team of Adam, AI recommends Bowen to Gordon, but obviously it's looking at Bowen's predicted points with a flag.
Yeah.
So that's why I prefer Diaby, but yeah, I fancy Gordon into your team. Rich, you got your team on screen now. What's your thinking?
Okay. Yeah. Really feel good about my team this week. I've made a transfer already, which is the second week running I've done that, a bit out of character, but because I had the 2 free transfers and exact money, I have decided to double up on the Arsenal defence, and I moved cash to Zinchenko on Tuesday evening. Zinchenko's gone up in price since then. Cash, I'm surprised, has not yet fallen, but I think might fall tonight. And so there's a bit of a 0.2 swing on it for me. And because I've been working hard on my beleaguered team value since I wildcarded, that was also on my mind. So didn't have a lot else to do amongst the team. I would drop Shah to the bench against Man United, and he's perfectly good to play. But Zinchenko will come in for the Wolves game. I do think he'll get that game because he was rested halfway through last night, and I think he's in Arsenal's first choice 11. So I'm happy with Zinchenko. And happy with the whole team, pretty much, Salah, Saka, and Mbeumo, Gordon in place. The triple up front, up top, Haaland, Watkins, and Darwin, all with great fixtures. Having the bench headache of Palmer at home to Brighton. Obviously, he's on pens. Don't really want to bench him, but he's there as a insurance should there be anybody not making it. Yeah, so loving the team, and can carry the 2 frees into next midweek when we may get some early team news once again and be able to react to it. So yeah, just keeping that second transfer in pocket. But yeah, really optimistic about this week.
Recommended transfer, Rich, this week is Maguire to Lascelles. What was your recommended transfer for this week?
Okay, yeah, could do.
My team, very sort of similar position, Rich, to you. Areola, Gabriel, Simicas. I've got Taylor at the moment in there as well. Midfield 5, Salah, Saka, and Mbeumo, Son, and Gordon. Really excited about that. Haaland and Watkins. I'm a bit stumped on what to do. I've got Lascelles in. I don't think I'm going to start him against United. I've got Arce as well. Obviously, Cash is the one. Who I'm thinking of getting rid of. I've got 2 transfers. I don't think I need to make one this week. But Cash to, I think I'm going to do either Pinnock. Now I know a bit more about Game Week 18. That's in the bin. But Cash to Zinchenko is the other move I was looking at, purely because it's affordable.
Yeah.
For for the next.
Yeah, you can
2 or 3 weeks.
just about. Have you actually only got 0.1?
I think I got the exact money. I think for it.
Just keep an eye on the markets tonight, because cash is really close to a drop.
Or the other thing I could do if I just wanted to play Taylor and keep cash, which I think we're quite happy with this week, is I could potentially do Turner to Kelleher ahead of the next few weeks, because it means I'd play Kelleher midweek. They have a decent game, whereas Ariola's away to Spurs. But I think I'd rather move my team along. So. I do think Cash to Zinchenko is probably the only thing with Zinchenko. I'm never 100% sure he's going to start. He's one of those frustrating players. I've got as much confidence as Zinchenko starting as I have Cash starting. Actually, I've got more in Cash as Darwin starting. So I'm not.
He is a bit like that, but he is a bonus magnet. He hoovers bonus. So if he starts and Arsenal do well, he will. He's had 5 bonus points in the last 2 weeks, and he was also outstanding against Brentford. So it's a bit punty. Certainly, if I could afford Saliba, I would be, but because of that team value, I just can't go there.
And Raya's the keeper looking at in a few weeks. But he's 4.9. He's shot up in price over the last few weeks. So
he gets no save points though. If you look at the stats, it's just so good. You're going to get a 6, or or he's going to concede. So I mean, he is good, but you're just buying the clean sheets for 4.9.
Good news for you, Rich. Gakpo starts, Darwin benched tonight. You'll take that, won't you? Jeez. That is good.
Well, also, it might not be great news because Watkins isn't in the squad tonight, which is strange.
Oh, wow, okay.
Like, not on the bench.
Not
either.
on the bench.
Don't know.
And they're home as well, aren't they?
Yeah, it's an injury or illness. So he's
Can
not.
you imagine the whole pod just wiped out in 10 minutes because everyone will be doing Watkins to Darwin. Good stuff.
Excellent.
FPL Nim is in the chat as well. Great to see you, Nim. Just asked a quick question. Bowen problem. Bowen and Diaz to Mbuemo and Gordon. That sounds
good to me. That sounds good to me.
Sounds good to me. Oh, sorry, Louise, as in Douglas Louise. I think not Diaz. That sounds even better. So yeah, I like that.
Yeah, definitely.
Just before we go, we currently have a Black Friday offer on at present. If you want to use the full power of Fantasy Football Hub, you can do so now for a full 30 days for free. The link is in the description below. This includes our My Team features, which we've shown throughout the pod. Includes your own personalized recommended transfers for your team, predicted points through AI, dedicated WhatsApp groups for pro members if you want to join, and so much more. There's so much stuff on the hub. It really is the number one site and the number one tool and app for fantasy football. Get on it if you haven't already. It's free for 30 days. You get either 4 or 5 game weeks, absolutely free access to absolutely everything. Give it a go. You will not be disappointed. And that is it from us for this week. Thank you so much to everyone who's joined in the chat. Those going to watch it later and those listening on the podcast, your support is very much appreciated. Simmercast starts this evening too. Just check that as well. Thank you, Alex, for all the updates there. Our law also says, Rich, that you look like Gary Anderson. In case you hadn't, been told that.
No, there's obviously a new viewer there.
Adam, thank you so much
thank
for
you.
joining us. Where can people get hold of you?
On X at Hopta Stats.
At Jason Statham on X.
Brilliant. Rich, thank you so much too. Where can people get hold of you?
On at Gary Anderson. No, I'm
Gary Anderson.
At Rich.
WillDarts.com.
At Rich Clarke.
Superb. My handle on Twitter is at FFH_Fergie. Drop us all a follow. This podcast video will be in the Fantasy Football Hub YouTube channel with the podcast versions available on all major podcast platforms. If you like what you watched, please press the like button. Remember to subscribe to the channel in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. If you enjoyed your listen, please rate the podcast. Give us 5 stars and leave a comment. It would be much, much appreciated. We'll be back next week. So game week 15, just for those who are not as engaged as others, is a deadline on Tuesday. Don't miss it. We won't be back before then, but don't miss it. Make sure you don't. We'll be back sometime next week previewing game week 16. In the meantime, the very best of luck for game weeks 14 and 15. And may all your arrows be green. Good night all.